You know, there is this incredibly specific feeling when it comes to modern money management.
Oh, absolutely.
It's this almost universal feeling of being trapped on a financial hamster wheel. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I mean, everybody knows that feeling.
Right. You get paid on the 5th of the month, and you feel this, like, brief wave of relief.
A very brief wave.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you pay off your immediate debts around the 10th, and by the 20th...
I'm ticking through the couch cushions.
Literally counting spare change, just agonizingly waiting for the next month to begin so you can, well, do it all over again.
It is a genuinely exhausting cycle. And what's fascinating is how it catches people across almost all income brackets.
Oh, for sure.
You see individuals earning 6 figures who are, just as trapped in that cycle as someone earning minimum wage.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. It points to a structural trap in how we handle resources rather than just like a simple income deficit.
Well, that structural trap is precisely what we are unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into this comprehensive strategy guide from the financial channel, CIPHRA.
Right.
And they have outlined these 5 non-negotiable financial commitments. So our mission today is to dissect the mechanics of these 5 steps to help you fundamentally rewire how you operate and ideally step off that wheel for good.
And what stands out immediately in their approach is the sheer pragmatism of it.
Yeah, it's very grounded.
Exactly. We see so much financial advice today that leans into vague visualization, staring at a vision board and just hoping wealth magically manifests.
Right, the whole, if I think about money, it will come to me thing.
Yeah, and this source material just strips all of that away. It is rooted entirely in actionable mathematical strategy and behavioral psychology.
And to anchor that strategy, they rely on this fantastic central analogy. Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine every dollar you earn as a soldier, and you are the commanding general.
I love this analogy.
It's so good. If the general has no battle plan, no map, and gives no orders, those soldiers simply scatter.
They just wander off.
Right. They wander off into the local coffee shop. They desert you for some impulse purchase online, and they never come back.
Because they had no direction.
Exactly. You have to take command. So how does a general actually begin to wrangle a chaotic financial army?
Well, before a general can issue a single marching order, they need a definitive target.
Makes sense.
You cannot command troops effectively if you don't know the coordinates of where you are going. This means replacing those, vague wishes with concrete strategy.
So getting away from the vision boards.
Right. Most people fail right at the starting line because the human brain is, it's evolutionarily wired for immediate survival.
Just getting through the day.
Exactly. It's not wired for processing abstract long-term concepts like a 30-year retirement plan.
That makes perfect sense. Saying, I want to save more money this year feels really good to say out loud, but it gives your brain 0 actionable data.
Precisely.
Yeah.
More is not a target.
No.
I mean, is more $1? Is it $1 million? Top corporate executives do not use the word more when allocating capital, and frankly, neither should you.
So what's the alternative?
The source applies the SMART goal framework here to bridge that gap between abstraction and actual execution.
Right. Specific, measurable, all that.
Yeah, let's look at the requirement to be specific and measurable first. Instead of saying, I want to be rich, the target becomes, I want a net worth of $1.2 million.
And here is where the math gets really useful. Because $1 million feels like this impossible mountain.
It sounds overwhelming.
It really does. But if you break a $1.2 million 10-year goal down, well, it's $120,000 a year.
Which is $10,000 a month.
Exactly. Break it down even further, and you are looking at roughly $333 a day.
Right.
Suddenly, that intimidating abstraction is a highly visible daily metric.
It completely alters your psychological relationship with the goal.
Oh, completely.
You are no longer climbing a mountain. You're just trying to clear a daily hurdle. But we do have to address the friction here, which brings in the A and the R of the framework.
Achievable and relevant.
Exactly.
Well, let me push back on the achievable part, because this is where a lot of rigid budgeting advice just falls apart for people.
Oh, for sure.
Let's say your take-home pay is $5,000 a month. If you mathematically need to save $3,000 of that to hit some arbitrary goal, you are going to be eating plain rice every night.
You will be absolutely miserable.
Right. And human nature guarantees you will abandon the campaign in 2 weeks.
That is the exact friction point the source highlights. The target has to apply pressure. I mean, it should require real discipline, but it cannot break morale.
Right. You can't starve your troops.
No. If your daily target requires you to live in a state of constant deprivation, the strategy is mathematically flawed. You have to adjust the timeline, not just punish yourself.
That's a great point.
But the relevant aspect is arguably even more crucial.
How so?
Well, if you are sitting on massive credit card debt, setting a goal to arbitrarily stockpile cash in a savings account is irrelevant.
Oh, yeah.
You are deploying troops to guard an empty field while your main base is actively under attack. You don't build a house on a sinking foundation.
Right, you have to prioritize the immediate threat first.
Yeah.
And finally, the T, which is time-bound, establishing a hard deadline like December 31st, 2026.
Without that deadline, Parkinson's law just takes over.
The idea that work expands to fill the time allotted.
Exactly. I'll start saving tomorrow literally becomes a lifelong permanent state.
Tomorrow never comes.
Never. And to prevent that drift, the source is absolutely adamant about externalizing this plan. You cannot keep your financial life in your head.
Our memories are way too terrible for that.
Entirely too fallible. You need a centralized command center, like a Google Sheet or a dedicated budgeting app. That is the literal battle map for your home turf.
Okay, so we have our battle map. We know the coordinates, but let's look at the operational reality here. Why do our troops keep deserting?
It's a great question.
I mean, even with a spreadsheet, we find our bank accounts mysteriously draining.
Because of the psychology of spending. A battle map is totally useless if the general cannot control their own impulses.
Right.
Which brings us to the defensive perimeter, the 50-30-20 rule. It is a structural defense mechanism to automatically categorize your troops before your emotions can intervene.
Let's break that down. 50% of your income goes to needs. That's your survival stuff. Rent, groceries, electricity.
Non-negotiables.
Right. Then 30% goes to wants. That is the enjoyment factor. Dining out, cafes, Netflix subscriptions.
Yeah.
And the remaining 20% is deployed for savings and investing. That 20% is the battalion strictly dedicated to securing your future.
Now, the theoretical breakdown is simple enough, but the actual battleground is entirely within that 30% wants category.
Oh, 100%.
In the modern consumer economy, marketers are just incredibly skilled at making a want masquerade as a need.
Yeah, like, is a high-speed internet upgrade a need for your career? Or is it a want for your streaming habits? It gets super blurry.
It really does.
And that leads to one of my favorite, most practical tactics in the entire guide, the 24-hour delay rule.
This is a game changer.
It is. We have all been there, scrolling on our phones late at night, and we see a flash sale on Shopee or Amazon.
And your brain just screams that you must acquire this item immediately.
Right now. But the rule dictates you put it in your cart, and then you intentionally close the app and go to sleep.
What's fascinating here is the mechanism behind this rule because it actively hijacks your own neurochemistry.
Wow, really?
Yeah. When you see that flash sale, your brain gets flooded with dopamine. But dopamine is not the chemical of reward. It is the chemical of anticipation.
Oh, interesting. So it makes you crave getting it.
Exactly. It makes you crave the acquisition. So by forcing a 24-hour delay, you allow that dopamine spike to metabolize and just dissipate.
You sober up, basically?
Basically, yeah. The source notes that 80% of the time, you wake up the next day, look at the cart, and realize the item offers zero actual utility to your life.
Okay, but let me challenge that 24-hour rule for a second.
Yeah.
What if the sale is genuine?
Okay.
Let's say it's Prime Day, and a $50 appliance that I actually do need is on sale for $25. But the sale ends in 2 hours. By waiting, haven't I just cost my army $25 in lost efficiency?
Well, it is a valid tactical question, but we have to look at the statistical reality of consumer behavior over a lifetime, rather than just one isolated incident.
Fair enough.
Yes, you might miss a minor discount occasionally, but if you analyze the opportunity cost of the 80% of impulse buys you avoid by waiting, the math heavily favors the delay.
So the math outweighs the missed deals.
Far and away. Let's say you avoid a $50 impulse purchase just once a week. That is $200 a month. If you deploy that unspent $200 into an investment yielding 10% annually for 10 years, you are not just saving $50. You are fundamentally altering your net worth.
Let mathematics convince you, not fleeting emotions.
Exactly. Let the compound math dictate your actions, not the manufactured urgency of a countdown timer.
Okay, so we have fortified our defense, we are categorizing our troops, we're letting the dopamine metabolize, and we have successfully secured that 20% battalion for the future.
The saving is happening.
Right. So the natural instinct here is to say, great, keep those soldiers safe in the barracks, just put the money in a jar or a savings account where nothing can hurt it.
Which is perhaps the most dangerous misconception in personal finance.
For real.
Absolutely. Keeping your soldiers idle in a standard bank account feels safe, but it basically guarantees a slow, silent defeat.
Because we are talking about inflation here, right?
Exactly. Inflation is the silent thief. It is the attrition rate of your army. It steadily degrades your purchasing power every single day.
So your money is just dying in the barracks.
Essentially, yes. If inflation is at 3 or 4%, the cash sitting there is actively losing its strength. Saving is just defense. But defense alone does not win campaigns. To actually build wealth, you have to transition to offense. You have to deploy your troops into the markets.
Okay, I hear that, and mathematically, sure, I understand it. But we have to address the psychological barrier here.
The fear.
Yeah. For a lot of people listening, investing feels totally indistinguishable from gambling. Isn't investing just a fancy word for gambling?
I hear this all the time.
Like, aren't we just sending our hard-earned soldiers into a volatile meat grinder?
That fear is completely understandable, especially when financial media focuses entirely on daily market crashes and, meme stock frenzies.
It looks chaotic.
It does. But the source draws a hard, definitive line between blind speculation and strategic allocation. Gambling is a game of pure chance, where the underlying mathematics are strictly designed to favor the house. You are guaranteed to lose over an infinite timeline.
Okay, and investing?
Investing, however, is acquiring fractional ownership in the productive capacity of the global economy. It's about risk allocation.
So how do we deploy them without risking a total wipeout?
Through a disciplined basket strategy, what the military might call a combined arms approach. You don't send just infantry into battle.
Right.
The source suggests deploying a portion of your troops into gold, which acts as your defensive anchor. It doesn't grow rapidly, but it holds its ground over centuries.
Okay, defensive troops.
Then the main offensive force goes into broadly diversified exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. These represent hundreds of top companies, mitigating the risk of any single company failing.
Got it.
And finally, they suggest a strict maximum of 5% in crypto.
Just 5%.
Maximum. Think of that as your high-risk, high-reward special operations flank.
Yeah.
If the mission fails, the core army survives. If it succeeds, you capture massive new territory.
That makes a lot of sense. And here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the power of time. Let's say you have a 20-year-old who deploys just $200 a month into those ETFs. Because the interest earns its own interest over decades, that 20-year-old will end up vastly wealthier than a 40-year-old who suddenly panics and tries to aggressively invest $1,000 a month.
The math is undeniable.
In the financial theater, time in the market completely overpowers the sheer amount of troops you deploy.
That is the crucial insight. The victors in the financial markets are rarely the people trying to execute brilliant, rapid-fire tactical maneuvers.
They aren't day trading their way to wealth.
No, they are simply the most stubborn. They set their strategic allocation, they accept that the battlefield will be volatile, and they refuse to retreat when the market dips.
They just sleep soundly while the assets fluctuate.
Exactly. So what? The market drops 10%. You hold the line.
You have to outlast the panic. But we need to pivot here, because deploying troops on offense is strategically pointless if there's a giant hole in the bottom of your financial boat.
Right. If your supply lines are being actively ambushed behind you.
Yes. We are moving into the harsh reality of high-interest debt.
Priority 1.
Credit cards, payday loans. If your offensive battalion is earning a 10% return in the stock market, but your supply lines are being ravaged by 25% interest on a credit card,
You are mathematically losing the war.
exactly. That high-interest debt will sink you before you ever reach the finish line. It bleeds your army dry.
It is a mathematical certainty.
Yeah.
High-interest debt is an enemy insurgency operating within your own borders.
That's a great way to put it.
Eradicating it has to be your first move. And the source presents two classic, contrasting methodologies for clearing out these insurgencies: the snowball and the avalanche.
This debate is essentially a choice between human behavioral psychology and pure, unadulterated mathematics.
Completely.
Walk us through the avalanche method first, because that is the one that satisfies the math.
The avalanche method is entirely rational. You list all your debts, and you order your troops to brutally attack the debt with the highest interest rate first, regardless of the total balance.
Just hunt down the worst interest rate.
Exactly. If you have a 25% APR credit card, you throw every available resource at it until it is dead. This method mathematically guarantees that you pay the absolute minimum amount of interest over the life of your debt. It is maximum efficiency.
But the human brain isn't a calculator.
No, it is not.
If that 25% debt is a massive $20,000 balance, you might be fighting that single grueling battle for a year and a half.
Easily.
You are pouring resources into it, but the balance barely looks like it's moving. There's no visible victory, morale plummets, and the general gets combat fatigue.
Which brings us to the psychological alternative, the snowball method.
Right.
At the snowball, you completely ignore the interest rates. You list your debts from the smallest total balance to the largest. You pay the minimums to keep the enemy at bay everywhere else, and you concentrate all your fire on that tiny $500 medical bill or that small store credit card.
But it's mathematically inefficient.
Yeah.
You are letting the high-interest debt grow while you fight a minor skirmish.
You are. But when you wipe out that $500 debt in just 2 months, you get a massive, tangible victory.
The dopamine hit.
Exactly. The dopamine hits. You cross a line off the spreadsheet. That surge in morale, the snowball gaining momentum, it gives the general the psychological stamina required to turn their sights on the next largest debt.
So it fuels the rest of the war.
Exactly. The source makes a very pragmatic recommendation here. If you are deeply analytical and hate inefficiency, use the avalanche.
And if you quick win.
If you need to see immediate results to stay engaged in the fight, use the snowball. The specific tactic matters far less than the sheer aggression of the counterattack. Pick the one that matches your psychology and start plugging the holes today.
Okay, let's assess the campaign so far. We have our map with SMART goals. We have fortified our perimeter with the 50-30-20 rule and the 24-hour delay.
Check.
We have deployed offensive troops through investing, and we are hunting down the insurgents of high-interest debt. It feels like a complete airtight system.
It is an incredibly solid operational foundation. However, if we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a hard, unavoidable ceiling to everything we have discussed.
What is the limitation?
Frugality has a mathematical limit.
Okay.
You cannot spend less than zero. You can optimize your defense perfectly, you can eliminate every single debt, but eventually you run out of expenses to cut.
Right, there's only so much belt-tightening you can do.
Exactly. If you want to accelerate the boat, if you want to conquer a massive financial continent, you cannot just get better at rationing supplies. You need a bigger engine. You need to recruit more troops.
So they were talking about expanding the operational limit by increasing income.
Precisely. Generating new reinforcements. The final principle argues that hyper-focusing purely on defense eventually yields diminishing returns. We are living in a rapidly shifting economic landscape.
Especially right now.
The source points specifically to the current AI era. The blunt reality is that if your skills remain static, if you aren't upgrading, your value in the marketplace actively depreciates. You have to upgrade your command capabilities, or you will be eliminated.
And the guy is highly specific here. It isn't just generic work harder advice.
No, it's highly tactical.
They point out that learning to leverage AI tools, like ChatGPT, can drastically multiply your productivity. You become a more valuable asset to your current employer, which gives you the leverage to demand a higher salary.
You're effectively recruiting more troops without even changing your base camp.
Right. Furthermore, they heavily advocate for establishing new recruiting channels altogether through side hustles.
Yes.
Mastering sales is highlighted because the ability to clearly communicate value and close a deal is entirely immune to technological obsolescence.
AI isn't going to replace a genuine human sales relationship anytime soon.
Exactly. And the barrier to entry for things like freelance work, dropshipping, or content creation has literally never been lower.
Every new income stream you build is a fresh battalion of soldiers joining your ranks every single month. It accelerates the entire timeline.
It changes the game.
It really does. You can fund your investments faster, crush your debt overnight, and reach those SMART goals years ahead of schedule. You transition from playing a game of sheer survival to playing a game of total conquest.
So what does this all mean? The overarching takeaway from these 5 commitments is that the mechanics of wealth building are surprisingly straightforward.
Simple, but not easy.
Right. The math is not overly complex. But executing this battle plan requires immense, unrelenting daily discipline.
It requires walking away from the dopamine hit of the flash sale.
It means staring at a spreadsheet when you would rather be watching television.
It means spending your Saturday upskilling instead of relaxing.
It completely shatters the illusion that wealth is just about getting lucky, or finding the perfect crypto token, or having the right connections. Wealth is the result of consistent, intentional, often boring execution.
Discipline, not luck. And, that brings us back to our core analogy. We have talked extensively about money as soldiers and you as the general commanding them.
Yes.
But I want to leave you with a different perspective to mull over, something to explore on your own. What is the ultimate objective of building this massive army?
Okay, what is it?
The goal of a great general isn't just to stay at war forever. The ultimate luxury of wealth is the ability to declare peacetime.
Oh, wow. The ability to declare peacetime.
True wealth isn't just about buying luxury goods. It is about time sovereignty. It is the power to walk away from a toxic workplace because you have the reserves to survive.
Right.
It is the ability to dictate your own schedule, to spend a Tuesday afternoon with your family without asking for permission. When you build this financial army, you are not just capturing dollars, you are buying back your own autonomy.
That's powerful.
So, as you look at your bank account today, think about your soldiers right now. Are they sitting idle in the barracks, losing their strength to inflation? Are they trapped behind enemy lines and high-interest debt? Or are they out there right now capturing new territory for your future?
It might be time to take command.
It's definitely time to take command.
That is the exact question you need to confront today. What kind of war are you actually fighting? Well, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of escaping the financial hamster wheel. Take these blueprints, map out your coordinates, and start taking command of your forces. We will catch you on the next deep dive.